going to introduce Kitty Brown, who's a Mohonk Consultations board member also. We're not spending a lot of time on introductions because we spend a lot of time on putting bios together that you can read. We're trying to fit so much in today, and I think you can all appreciate that. So that's why short breaks, bios on paper, and with that said, I'll turn it over to Kitty.
Okay, thanks, Kara. And I just want to take a moment to remember that conversation that Kara referred to at one of our board meetings where we were looking around at each other and saying, you know, we ask so much of the land. We ask it to feed us, house us, carbon sequestration, you know, watershed refill. How on earth can we just get all of these things to work together? And Kara and her team took the lead and found all of you who are just doing such magnificent work every day to actually answer those questions. So it's wonderful to have you all here. We are very pleased to have Kai, who's right in the middle there. Kai Farmer is the senior planner of Ulster County. Robert McKeon is town supervisor. Congratulations on your re-election. And Weston Minissali is project manager of Taproot from the Kingston Community Land Trust. So we are going to start with questions. I'm going to throw this question out there and ask each of you to answer it in whatever order you prefer. What are the greatest opportunities? Oh, you know what? I've jumped it up. You each get 5 to 7 minutes to introduce yourselves and your work. So let's start there.
Well, we can go with the youngest.
Okay. My name is Weston Minissali. I work at Taproot Community Land Trust. We're serving all of Ulster County. Just kind of getting started off the ground. So what Community Land Trusts do is they offer affordable homeownership and add this extra kind of innovation where homes that are put into the trust are set aside for ongoing affordable homeownership after the first owner decides to resell or moves on. The second, I think, unique aspect to CLTs are creating a membership-driven organization where the organization and the members have a say in determining how housing and how the affordable housing is developed and what the priorities of the organization are. So I'll just go over a little history of how it works, some benefits. The first CLT was created right out of the civil rights movement in Georgia. Since that time, it's expanded and innovated around the nation. There's currently in America 350 CLTs. We know that this is a model that works in New York State. We have many of them operating right now. We have Taproot Community Land Trust has partnered or has gotten a lot of advice from Albany Community Land Trust, a thriving CLT pretty close to here. Taproot's history started in 2018, 2019 when concerned citizens, at that time it was just Kingston residents came together. There's a housing crisis, how do we protect one another? We're hearing things about community land trust, will it work here? And so it started very grassroots. I think pretty soon the Kingston Land Trust got involved and helped facilitate some of the conversations. Since then we've expanded. We have actually a relatively small board of directors, one staff member, which is myself, and we have 2 primary partners. We're an independent organization, but there's a Kingston Land Trust that is going to help us on an ongoing basis with community outreach. Just last week we had our first community outreach event, Spanish language, Community Tierra, Food and Land, where we discuss the CLT model with our community that speaks Spanish. And then we also have a partnership with RUPCO, who I know some people are here. Kevin, I see you. Thank you for your support. They have a regen project rehabilitating various homes in Midtown Kingston with the intention of catalyzing our portfolio of homes, placing them in the land trust for not just affordable homeownership for the first individual, but on an ongoing basis. So, like I said, it's a membership-driven organization. There are resident members as well as community members. So residents reside in CLT homes, And then we also have community members, which are just people, concerned citizens, people who want to support affordable homeownership in this kind of unique model. And also, all members have voting rights and can join subcommittees and various things like that. Then each type of membership votes from within themselves representatives to the board of directors. So 1/3 will be resident members, and the second third will be community members. And the final third would be what we're calling public directors, which are what would traditionally be nonprofit, more like housing experts, affordable housing experts, local activists, really whatever the membership decides would help flesh out the perspective of the organization and run a successful board. Maybe the last thing I'll just say is, I should say a little bit just how it works. So subsidy is raised by the organization or a partner org to reduce the cost of a home, allowing someone who would otherwise be excluded from homeownership ownership opportunity. And we call this community investment, right? So the community-driven organization lowers the cost of the home so someone can live there. And in exchange for this community investment, the homeowner agrees to certain terms and limitations to what they expect to appreciate when they go to resell. So the home is resold to a second homeowner with similar income levels, so that the subsidy that reduced the home for the first individual is extended on an ongoing basis. And we're talking very long term. The ground lease agreement that each CLT homeowner agrees to is 100 years and is renewable and can be inheritable and things like that. So we call this general premise shared equity. It's kind of this union of individual opportunity to stable housing and also the community coming together saying we need an ongoing portfolio of homes that will serve this need that isn't going to go away anytime soon. So it's kind of using public dollars and subsidy, making it go much further than how it usually works. I guess we call that, subsidy retention, right? Yes, that's really the vision. It's just creating coming together as a community to uplift individuals, having this core organization that can be a hub that helps people navigate all the complexities of homeownership leading up to the actual purchase, but actually long afterwards. You have voting rights to help steer the organization for the duration of your tenure, and growing a permanent portfolio of homes for Ulster County and the surrounding areas.
Wow. Okay, great stuff. Kai is our next speaker.
Thanks, Weston. So my name is Kyle Farmer. I'm a senior planner in the Ulster County Planning Department. Been there for about a year and a half. Moved back from California, working on climate and housing there. Grew up in Ulster County, Rosendale area, along with my friend Weston. So I'm going to walk through a little bit of like the wins that we've had so far, and then talk a little bit about what I think some of the innovative housing solutions are. So in 2021, Ulster County developed the Housing Action Plan to help with Pattern for Progress. We had a Housing Advisory Committee that still exists. It's on pause right now, but there's kind of 5 initiatives that came out of that, and we're moving pretty quickly in achieving those initiatives. The first was establishing an Ulster County Housing Task Force, which we've done. It's been in place since 2021. The second was establish partnerships and collaborate with developers for scattered site redevelopment. That is happening in various ways. 2 projects to highlight here where the county is actually taking the initiative is the Golden Hill project in Kingston, where we've demolished the former county jail and working with the developer to develop over 100 units of low-income housing from 30% to 80% AMI, which is a great project. And we've also taken some of our ARPA money from the federal government and provided it to various projects, including Silver Gardens, where Rucco is a partner, is a senior housing project in Highlands. Increased the supply and supported in transitional housing in the county. That's one that we definitely need to be focusing on a little bit more. We did purchase Elizabeth Manor in Kingston, and through various hurdles, we're getting to a point where it will be supportive housing for folks in Kingston and throughout the county. I'm going to touch back on the Housing Smart Communities Initiative in a moment, but the last is establish a housing fund or housing trust fund. Executive Metzger talked about this. We created the Housing Action Fund thanks to Metzger, but also the county legislature. Shout out to any legislators in the audience or just in general. They need your support. $50 million of seed funding, maybe around $3 million a year that will go out in a notice of funding availability or a NOFA process, where we try to cast the net as wide as possible of the types of projects that we will fund. It could be multifamily low-income housing projects. It could be funding for emergency housing. It could be co-housing projects. This is focused on folks making land acquisition and infrastructure costs for affordable housing projects. We were inspired by Westchester County and also Tompkins County, Ithaca as well. Focusing on 80% or below, AMI, and then the hope is we've created this Housing Policy and Oversight Committee. We've got 5 members. They are housing experts from finance to architecture to lived experience in being unhoused or in supportive housing. And we're hoping that, or I'm hoping that there's a priority of that funding going towards projects that are put into community land trusts. It's $15 million of public money, and so we want that subsidy to last as long as possible. A couple other ones that Jen mentioned before, the Affordable Rental Upgrade Program just launched this month with our partner Rutco. So check that out. That is a $1.5 million for small landlords with 8 or less units. Grants for energy efficiency, health and safety, accessibility upgrades, and then in exchange, keeping rents at an affordable level for 5 to 7 years. So applications are open right now through the end of the month, so spread the word about that if you know. Not for the landlord, but for the tenants. Yeah. We received $1.75 million from the state for what we're calling the Plus One Home program. That's a ADU development program where homeowners, income qualified homeowners earning less than 100% AMI can receive up to $125,000 to either rehab a portion of their home as a rental or build a new detached accessory dwelling unit. We can fund about 12 to 14 units. We received 80 applications, so we're gonna have to make some decisions. But another portion of that program is that rents will be capped for 10 years for those units, and then after that, you can rent. We hope you're renting at an affordable rate, and it can't be used for short-term rentals. As part of that, also, we created a design competition for ADU. We received 21 proposals. We've chosen a winner with our selection committee. It's not announced yet. Look out for that in the paper and other places. But the winner of that competition will generate a set of construction plans that will be free for anyone to use in the county to build an ADU. Hopefully it's gonna, those can cost up to $10,000. So that's $10,000 that's removed from that. And then the last is the Housing Smart Communities Initiative. I'm not going to go through all the actions. We have a website that you can check out. We've got 11 communities that have joined so far. As Steve and Rebecca talked about and everyone else, community education for the planning boards, for the zoning boards, and for the general public about what affordable housing actually is, and dispelling those myths is the primary goal. But we're doing other cool things. We provide consultant support for some of the communities. Rochester, I want to point out this one. We're working with Rochester just because it's specific to this conference. We're doing a sites inventory of everywhere that there's potential for future affordable housing development, but we're also doing an affordable housing design charrette. So we're bringing in community members to design what affordable housing might look like in their community. So you can't be a NIMBY if you're the one who's designing the project. I think I'll stop there. I don't know how long I've been talking, but Ulster County Housing Smart Communities Initiative. I'm going to just say a couple of these innovative solutions in conservation subdivisions. Shout out Woodstock and the Woodstock Housing Committee. They're probably on the front lines of this push between land conservation, and they're doing a really big zoning update right now, which we would like to use, hopefully it passes, as a model for other communities. Transfer of development rights, conservation subdivisions, tenant or community opportunity to purchase acts. And then just lastly, this might be a little too radical, but just the general decommodification of the housing stock and moving more of our housing away from a speculative housing market. I don't really see solutions aside from that in the long term. I'm not sure how we get there. CLTs are one solution. And that's it.
Okay, thank you, Kai. I've seen Kai before the legislature. Jackie Brownstein is head of our Ulster Activist Affordable Housing Committee. And if anybody in Ulster County is interested in learning more about that, talk to Jackie. But we went and sat quietly, because you're not allowed to speak at legislative meetings. But you could just feel the legislators paying attention, because there were people in the room that they hadn't seen before. And Kai gave masterful presentations, so it's just so important for us to show up where we're not expected. So next is Town Supervisor Robert McKeon. Just give us an overview of what you're doing.
Thanks very much. I think I'll take up the open space part of the equation to begin with. Most of you are familiar with some of the work we've done in the town of Red Hook. Following the late 90s, Scenic Hudson chose two model communities, Red Hook and Stuyvesant in Columbia County, to do their pilot preservation work. And I got started a few years later in the town of Red Hook proposing that we have a local purchase of development rights program, which actually went to public referendum in 2003 and was approved. Bonding was approved by 83% of the voters to protect important open spaces and especially working farms. Fast forward to 2007, many of us have been lobbying Albany for a Hudson Valley Community Preservation Act, which would enable municipalities within the region to authorize a real estate transfer fee. The town of Red Hook, being impatient as we tend to be from time to time, decided, well, we're just going to go get our home rule authorization while we're waiting for them to pass legislation. And so we did. We worked with our members. We designed our program to be a 2% fee above the county sales price for a single-family home, in part because we didn't want to add additional costs to affordable or more affordable or relatively affordable housing within our community. That also went to public referendum. The timing was not perfect. You might recall there was a real estate crash in 2007 and 8. It did pass, however, thanks to many, including some in this room. That was the second tool for preserving open space. In 2011 and 12, the town developed a plan called Centers in Green Space, a model Dutchess County had been advocating for. We did the harder part the easier part of figuring out where to protect, and I'm going to ask you, since I don't have slides because of that annoying event that happens every 4 years on the first Tuesday in November, I want you to imagine this is the town of Red Hook. There's a baseball diamond in the middle, about a mile square. We're going to call it the village of Red Hook, okay? And then at the top left here, we're going to have another village. We're going to call this one the village of Tivoli, okay? Follow along if you could, please. Around there, we have a lot of open spaces and working farmlands. And so in centers and green space, we've identified all of those lands. We did the harder part, however, which is identifying where we wanted development. And where we designated development was adjacent to the village of Red Hook, the southern portion of the township. And so we created a tool called incentive zoning. So what it simply does is allow developers to come in and develop in this area and get a bonus density. They pay into this incentive zoning fund, and that fund can be used to preserve some of those beautiful open spaces. Oh, look at that, we're almost there. Notice they put Rhinebeck here, which got rid of us in 1812, I might add, because we were the poor people in 1812. Anyway, so, thank you, this is very lovely. You very talented folks. So here we go. Here is the lower area here for what we call our traditional neighborhood district, a commercial district, a residential district. We want a walkable community attached to the village here. And so funding goes in. We have a development that's 2/3 of the way finished. Funding goes in to preserve those open spaces. Now let's fast forward again. We're in 2022, 2023. There's a housing crisis in the town of Red Hook and the Hudson Valley. And I turn to my board and say, you know those incentive zoning funds that we've accumulated, got a lot of money in our community preservation fund for the open spaces. Why don't we consider revising our law and making those funds available for acquiring properties for affordable housing? And with a very supportive board, I might add, we did in fact do that in the beginning of this year. We did it not only because it was a good idea, but we did it because we had an opportunity that we could put those funds to use. So, remember that diamond? Where's that diamond? We need to zoom in a little bit more on the village. Okay, right over here. Here's the village. Very nicely. Well, we have a farm. Okay, oh, easy. Don't get too excited. Who's in the control? Oh, it's Jason, of course. Okay, too much coffee for Jason this morning. So here's the northern gateway of the village. In fact, it's the village and town. And annoyingly, it's a farm in a village. Anybody else have that? A farm in a village? Yeah, somebody does. Okay. So this farm on both sides of Route 9 Albany Post Road is up for sale. It's now being reviewed by 2 developers for what we believe is going to be a Levittown style of development at our gateway on some of the best soils in the world, in particular on this side, the east side. The town decides we can't let that happen. We've got to go ahead and we've actually got to get in there. We've got to purchase the properties. We've got to take that extraordinary step, the step we haven't taken before. We're going to buy them first, and then we are going to conserve the land, and then we are going to take, as it turns out when we looked at the property, we're going to take a small portion over here that isn't currently being farmed, and we are going to set aside that for affordable housing. So in fact, we've done all of those things. We have purchased the properties with our partners, Scenic Hudson, thank you very much, Scenic Hudson, yay, yay. Dutchess Land Conservancy. We have placed conservation easements on the gateway, this beautiful gateway, if you're familiar with the northern part of the village of Red Hook. And we have just recently awarded, as of last week, the farmland here on the east side to an organic farm that got its start in the town of Red Hook. So it's working out quite wonderfully. So here we are, we're still in the village. This is where we want density. And so what we've got, a proposal working with REPCO, is a combination of both single-family homes and multifamily to build out the village of Red Hook on the northern end here without sacrificing any of those active farmlands here. And so here. Somebody mentioned climate. We would be remiss in saying that part of the project proposal is to have a community geothermal service both the single family and the multifamily buildings on the property as well. So that's our example for today. Thank you very much.
You know, I'm feeling a lot better right, than I was yesterday. There's some really great stuff happening out there. Okay, next we are going to ask our panelists to talk about what are the greatest opportunities for you out there, and I hate to be a downer, but what are the biggest obstacles? And you don't have to answer both if you don't want to.
Certainly the biggest challenge to the community land trust model specifically is that idea of collective ownership or shared equity and the idea of limiting equity for anybody, right? This is pretty antithetical to how we traditionally view property. This goes back to, I don't know, the day I was born, really, and for everyone here. So yeah, I guess just interrogating that and kind of coming to terms with, you know, as we see rapid inflation of home prices, it's great for the individual, and as a community, we lose the opportunities to house the people that make 80, 70, 60, 50% of our area median income. So that's definitely the most controversial element.
Mm-hmm.
We try to, I think it's actually reframable in that saying, well, really, it's a completely voluntary program. We're not forcing it onto anybody. It's really designed for people who would otherwise be excluded from home ownership and all of the benefits and securities that provides. So it's not, it's really just for people opting in who feel, you know, right now, we have thousands of people in Ulster County and the surrounding area who feel as though they will never have an opportunity at home ownership. That's not fair. We think, you know, housing is a human right. It's not just an equity building tool. It needs to shelter us from the elements, and everyone deserves that. So really centering that kind of like primal need of housing. But also the community land trust model does provide an opportunity, again, for people who otherwise wouldn't have the opportunity at all, to build equity and generational wealth. Again, the homes can be transferred to your family, and there is, it's just not market rate appreciation that we see. So that's certainly the biggest challenge.
It's the first step for generational wealth, which is something that we don't hear much about, but it's really fundamental to a community growing together. So thank you for bringing that up. Kai, do you have any thoughts about?
Yeah, I'm gonna focus on opportunities. I think the biggest one that I've been feeling is that the crisis itself is an opportunity. I've been hearing from other Ulster County staff and throughout the community that like folks are talking about ideas that they have never thought that they would hear communities talking about because the crisis is getting so bad. So we are kind of at this moment where the window of possibility is open. Maybe, you know, prices are coming down a little bit. We don't want to lose that momentum that we're all obviously a part of right here. So that's one of the biggest opportunities. I think another one that I've been seeing that's pretty exciting is bringing in the faith-based community. One, to appeal to a different sentiment about housing as a human right, and also they have lots of land, and they have a spiritual motivation and drive to house people. So I think that's another big opportunity. I think the biggest barrier, as we've been talking about here, is these things are not simple. They are complicated. Planning, zoning, all these things are incredibly nuanced. And so I think the biggest barrier is general capacity of the general population to understand these things, but also planning boards and zoning boards, they're ultimately the ones that make the decision. They're all volunteers. And so making sure that they have the knowledge and expertise that they need to make informed decisions about projects.
Okay, thanks. Supervisor McKeon.
Well, I would say on opportunities, I would say that there are tools that we can implement. I mentioned the incentive zoning funds as it relates to that particular project, but I would also like to point out what it did do was increase development in the township as a whole. So you'll see that if it was charted in front of you today, you'd see an increase in development and an increase in preservation happening all at the same time, a greater efficiency. And that leads into the biggest challenge, which is messaging to your community. So if you can tie the two things together to say, hey, we've instituted this tool, incentive zoning, and money's going to be used to preserve and stop the sprawl and to strengthen your center, that helps. If you can do an affordable housing project at the same time you are preserving most of it as open space, that also helps. It helps to offset some of that resistance that you'll get from the community.
And I know people are going to talk about NIMBY later, but I do want to point to the example in New Paltz under our supervisor, Neil Detez. We passed something called gateway zoning, where we took a commercial district and said, you get one floor, then you get a second floor. We gave all commercial development in that district a second floor. We thought, God, they're going to be so happy. We did use the term workforce housing because we wanted the developer to visualize where are the people who work in all of your retail going to live. And it's 2 years of planning and public hearings and testimony and passed without any controversy. The developer took the zoning to the Zoning Board of Appeals where it got a waiver. Said, we don't want a second story. We don't want all that housing. So when you think about NIMBY, it's not just your neighbors, right? Sometimes it's the developer who is saying, I don't really want to solve your problem for you. Anyway, enough from me. What have you found are the essential keys to success? Or, is that a good question? Oh, good, okay.
I would say it starts with political will. You know, unfortunately, those annoying things that happen every 2 or 4 years sometimes prevent people from doing the right thing. And so, I would say it's important to have local government support these efforts, regardless of what the outcome in November is.
Yeah, same answer. What I wrote was elected officials who are willing to champion affordable housing projects as a priority and not cave to special interests or a small local minority that may oppose the project, otherwise known as a spine. So that's essential. Leaders need to lead in that regard, regardless of whether they want to get reelected or not. The idea of being an elected official was to volunteer your time for a certain amount of time and then step back and let someone else do it. So you can make a lot of change in a couple of years if you're willing to sacrifice not having everyone love you. And then again, we've been talking about it, but yeah, dispelling myths about affordable housing. A really important one that I want to communicate is that affordable housing projects do not decrease your property value. It's been shown time and time again. And in the age of misinformation and social media, things can get passed around really quickly. And so, some barriers.
Yeah, similar. I think just finding ways to adequately communicate the information, and just speaking from my pretty specific organization, just coming up with the right ways, talking points, and literature to help communicate this kind of relatively, it's not a brand new idea, but it is the first in the region So just finding the best ways to communicate it and people getting involved, really explaining what they're agreeing to, not trying to, trick anybody, wanting, consent and kind of mutual understanding to just kind of be a part of just like it's a bottom line standard. Keys to success. Yeah, I think also coming from just like a community member, that's why I'm here. I'm from this area, I love this area, and so the people that I collaborate with on this project, checking in on multiple levels, professional level, your kind of shared mission, your goal, but also checking in on like capacity and wanting to be in dialogue about, if someone's really stressed at their primary job and is on our board, like checking in about burnout. Oh, just take this week's meeting off, or you've got a lot going. Just kind of being in just a very human dialogue and meeting the practical needs of other working people, and at the same time creating a space that's radically inclusive, and which is just a science in itself, and just and really kind of bringing up inclusivity and a welcoming kind of vibe to the organization and what we're doing, bringing that up regularly at our meetings and just talk about how to best do that.
Okay, radically inclusive. Note to self. I think that's a fabulous concept.
I just want to add a couple of things. One of the things that I found was helpful asking Rupco for some of the renderings for the projects and got that out to the entire community. Because I think if people are left to their own devices and they hear affordable housing and they're immediately going to Section 8 and they envision, some building that they have in their image that they wouldn't want to see in their community, this can help to mitigate that. The other thing I would say as far as challenges is that, Albany, when it does bad things, when it does good things, it doesn't always necessarily come to the people who are implementing these types of projects or programs before they go ahead and they develop them. And so I think, a greater reach down, if you will, from Albany to help these developers, get what they need in order to pull off the projects that they do.
Okay, yeah, we have heard, we've certainly got Rupco here, but it does feel like there is so much competition for that kind of state help. And if more of that could, be accessible, I think that could help solve the problem. Okay, we have a few minutes left. What collaborations have been most successful for you? Oh, did I spring that on you? Oh, okay.
We're a new organization, and pretty soon we got into the weeds about just like how to budget and how to just launch a successful organization that's sustainable. And pretty soon we realized we live in Ulster County with all these great organizations already doing, wonderful things. So instead of launching some massive staff, let's collaborate. Let's reach out to Rupco. We don't have to be masters of affordable housing development overnight, KLT, Kingston Land Trust, and there are amazing ties to the community. They've been at various events. So just like not feeling like we have to reinvent the wheel right from the jump, and just trying to leverage, and everyone we've met along the way they're just enthusiastic about this project. There's a certain kind of unanimity to the issue of affordable housing, and so our partner organizations that I see as expanding, just kind of being this essential key, and kind of creating this commons of this common shared vision among organizations, not just kind of these discrete orgs that are competing against one another.
Interesting, that's good stuff. Hi?
In terms of collaboration, obviously the nonprofit affordable housing community like Rupco. I just want to give a round of applause to Rupco. But you also need an ecosystem of everyone, from banks and financing, emergency housing organizations and things like that are essential. A lot of times people point to like the government as the solution maker, but the government is made up of organizations and people, and I think the other one that I haven't seen much, but I'm starting to see more, is actually like breaking down silos and collaboration within government. There's a lot of kind of, this is my lane, I'm gonna stay here, you know, land conservation and the environmental folks are really in their corner, housing development is in their corner, mental health and the Department of Health are in their corner, but I think there's a huge opportunity for more collaboration because, you know, life doesn't exist in this.
Yeah, I was going to answer all of them, just because this crazy idea that local municipalities made up of volunteers who have absolutely no expertise in the things that they are about to make decisions on is really quite something. I'm grateful for a lot of the organizations. Scenic Hudson probably has to be at the top of my list, just because I think that they've shown themselves to be willing and able to assist communities in any type of endeavor that is important to them, whether important to the community rather, whether it's a positive or negative implication that's posed to that community. We need to rely on experts a lot, and so the generosity of a lot of these organizations and other levels of government is really important to us in order to get the work done, and we appreciate all the time and effort that they give to us.
Well, thank you. I think it's lovely to end on a note of collaboration, which is what really everybody in this room is trying to do. I think Kara has some instructions. We're not having a question and answer session now, but at 2:45, we'll be having an informal session. You may have noticed the boards outside, and we'll be meeting. You can meet with any of the panelists that you want to, and just go around and get your questions in more one-on-one way.
Thank you very much.